Hey, what's up everybody? Andre with AndreReeseDotBiz. All right guys, I know you guys miss me out here on these cyclecasts. Man, it has been, 9 weeks since I've done one. Really almost 9 weeks to the day. And where have I been? I've been out. A brother suffered from a massive kidney stone attack, so I had to get that all taken care of. And so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about today my kidney stone journey. It's spanned over 20 years, and we'll go ahead and jump right into that right now without any further ado. So let's go ahead and start discussing it. So like I said, my kidney stone journey has been taking place over the last 20 years. And I am prone to them, and I've had a few outbreaks over the years, and I've had various treatments that have taken place. And so let me just start out by saying this. Before I even get into discussing any of this, none of this is medical advice in any kind of way. I'm just gonna tell you guys what my journey has been, and the wake-up call that I've gone through, and some of the things that I'm going to be doing, going forward to minimize my chances of getting these things. So if you are having a problem with your kidney stones, if you're having them, consult your physician and a qualified medical professional before you decide to do anything at all. So with that said, let's go ahead and start. So like I said, it's been a 20-year journey, and I'm thinking my first outbreak I had was somewhere about 20 years ago, and that particular one was painful and debilitating. So it hurt so bad, and I don't think I've had other outbreaks since. They haven't been as painful as that one right there. So I'll just go ahead and say that. Like I said, technology has increased, quite a bit since then. But, they were able to either go in with a laser and shatter the stone up, through your urethra, or they would do the procedure called lithotripsy. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but what lithotripsy is essentially shockwave treatments. And so you get knocked out and you go under general anesthesia, and they essentially shoot shock waves directly at the kidney stone, which causes it to explode into multiple fragments and pieces. Then you can turn around and pass those naturally through your urine, And so that was the first time I had ever had a problem. I ended up going to Kaiser, and they diagnosed me as having kidney stones. They went ahead and did the procedure. And so when I went into the doctor first, of course they do urine tests and all that type of stuff. And in office, they scoped me, which was crazy and painful. They ran a scope all the way up into my bladder and my kidney to kind of see if everything was okay, because I was having blood in my urine and all that. And when they found out I was fine, man, I'm telling you, I didn't want to have to go through that anymore at all. And so they scheduled me for the procedure. I went and paid my $20 or whatever the copay was, and showed up in Oakland early in the morning. They did the treatment. Then they said, hey, before you leave, you got to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom, and my brother, it shocked me. I urinated really, really bloody water. And so after that, you go home and you strain your urine, and you catch the stones, and then you can send them back in at your follow-up appointment, drop them off. They can run some tests, and then you're good to go. So that was my first adventure with the stones. And I had another one later on So this one, the stones, the first time the stone was so large it couldn't pass. I don't remember how big it was. And then the second time, I had a problem with them. It was, they were small and one released, and so they were able to give me, what do they call it, Flomax? And so if men are having problems going to the bathroom and they can't get their flow going, there's a technical term for it, but it's called Flomax, and it allows you to increase your flow. So they gave me the Flomax, and then by drinking a bunch of water and taking pain pills, I was able to survive and eventually pass the stone out through in my urine, and I was kind of good to go. And so that was a number of, and that's kind of really like my last stone incident that I had. And from that point, I heard that if you start drinking like apple cider vinegar, or you put lemon in your water, that it helps, erase stones, or it helps to minimize them. So I started doing that really on a regular basis. And I went all the way about up until last year, I had an episode. And so that was probably about 12 years or so that had passed or elapsed that I had an episode. And so we had just moved, and I was vigorously exercising, doing the rowing bike, and then I caught a stone, and I released one, and I went through a lot of pain. I could feel it coming and moving and shifting downward, so I ended up going to the emergency room because I started to see discoloration in my urine that was reddish.
Distance 3
and
miles.
I went to emergency at VCU out here, and they were like, okay, you do have a stone, it's definitely moving. Matter of fact, you have a couple of stones. You got a small one and a large one. And they set me up with an appointment to go see the urologist, and like later on the next week, because things seemed like they subsided. My test and stuff kind of chilled out and normalized while I was there in the emergency room. I think I had posted about it before. But so I had an appointment to go about a week later, and after I got done with the emergency room, I got a $12,000 bill. And so I was like, holy man, no way. And so there was a number of other smaller bills that had settled out, and I went ahead and paid those, but the $12,000 bill, it said it was still trying to be settled. And the way I was looking at everything, I was like, man, this is going to be an expensive bill. So I ended up, because I didn't have any certainty, I went ahead and canceled my urology appointment that I had. And I just said, I'm going to stand down until this bill gets settled. I don't have any issues right now. I think I'm good. And I just kind of let things ride. And so that bill took literally about 9 months to finally settle. So it went from about 12 grand all the way down to $3,500. And I ended up making, I went to go pay the bill, and they offered 0%. You can make 3 payments. So I ended up making 3 payments over a period of 3 months to pay off that bill. And the problem was I had a HSA, and as long as nothing really happens to you at all, your costs for medical are going to be low. But if you end up having some issue or some problem or something happens, that's where you can be subject to much higher amounts of money out of pocket. And so that's kind of what I went through. And so knowing that, and by that point we had gotten married, me and Marilyn, and we were doing like the whole thing with insurance. And I was like, hey, when we go through the insurance this time, let's try to see about, you know, if we can maybe pay a little bit more and then, but have less money that we're gonna have to pay out of pocket. So I know at some point I'm gonna have to get this taken care of, and boom, let's go ahead and do that. And so as soon as, like I said, as soon as I got the bill, I had just paid it like within a few days. And I had the last time I rode 20 miles that day. And I ended up having, as soon as I got back home, I ended up having an episode, and it was very painful, but it wasn't as bad as what I felt before in the past, but it was pretty painful. And so I had to, oh, excuse me. Sorry. All right, you're good. I had to take some, how you doing? I had to take some pain medicine, and I start increasing my flow of, my fluid intake, start drinking a lot more lemon water and, you know, apple cider vinegar and all that whole thing. And I didn't get any improvement at all. And so after a few days of, you know, trying to make it happen, you know, nothing happened. And I ended up having to, you know, figure out how to use the medical coverage that we have and get myself set up. So, and I'll tell you, what caused these? So, I don't drink enough water. I haven't been drinking enough water. That's what my problem has been. And so I take full responsibility for that, fully accountable for that, you know. And every time I've had an episode before in the past, it has always happened right after a heavy physical exertion episode. And so, like the first time I was out playing tennis, and it was very hot that day. I was sweating a lot, and I didn't take enough fluid in. And so I crashed my system, and then my body expelled the kidney stone from my kidneys, and it started to work its way down. And then the other time I had an issue, I was at Disneyland, and it was really hot that day. I didn't drink enough water, and I ended up going on rip-roaring rapids, which is, you know, jostles you around and all that. And I didn't have enough water in my system. I crashed my system, and that caused me to have my second kidney stone episode. And then this time, like last time, I said I was exercising a lot on the rowing machine, very, very vigorous. I was sweating a lot before that, didn't take much water in, and crashed my system and caused that kidney stone to expel itself. And then the next time, which was on Father's Day, that just passed, I had ridden 20 miles that day. And out here in Virginia, it's hot. And so I hadn't ridden much in a while, so I said, let me do a bigger ride. I didn't drink enough water going into it. I didn't drink enough water during it. And it was hot that day, it was humid, you know. And at the end of the ride, when I got home, you know, I started to expel a kidney stone, you know. So, like I said, that's what my situation is. And I realize that now, that's what the problem was, you know. So the thing is, if you don't drink enough water over time, your body will build the stones. Then at some time you're gonna have go this way here. At some time you'll have an event where your body will turn around and expel them. And when it does that, that's where you have the pain, you know. And so that's kind of what my history is of them. And so this time around, I had a major problem because before in the past, I've always had Kaiser. And with Kaiser, you can just essentially just show up and pay $20 and you can get treated all throughout their network. Just one place to go, you get referred, you have a primary doctor, you know, all that whole thing. You can call them on the phone, you can text them, you can email them, they can tell you where you need to go, all good. And so out here in Virginia, I did not have a primary doctor set up at all with the new health coverage. Just the closest Kaiser out here is in Washington, D.C. And so I had not taken the time to try to figure out their coverage and their service and how it worked. Plus I also had the fear of like that large bill that I had gone through. And so, you know, while this was all happening, I realized I needed to go. And so I went ahead and logged into their online service, set up a profile, and put in basic information that allowed me to figure out what the coverage was and what I can do. And so their particular website made things very, very easy. You know, because we're used to, if you want to find a good restaurant, or if you want to find you know, a business that you want to maybe do business with, you know, you can go on Yelp, you can go on Google. Especially on Google, you can see a map of all the restaurants around you, what their star rating is. You can read the reviews. Well, everything that they have is set up the same way. And so you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you where you are and and who's around you who can help you. And so I had a couple options where I can talk to, have a telemedicine visit, but I was like, I don't need to go to the doctor. And I was like, well, maybe I should go to the emergency room. I'm like, well, they can't solve my problem that I have because, you know, all they can do is give me another referral to urology and maybe just make sure my levels and stuff are okay. I said, what I really need to do is I need to go and have lithotripsy done again. I know because the 2 stones I had, they were, one was, I think, like 9 millimeters. The other one was like 1.1 or 1.2 centimeters. And so if you add the 2 together, they're going to total out to almost an inch is what the 2 of them are all together. And I went online and I confirmed that if there's no way that my body would be able to pass them, it would take well over a year. And so I was like, I need to get the procedure done. And so on their website, I just typed in lithotripsy and it showed me a map of the area I'm in and all the places I can go to get it done. And it showed how much it cost. So I was like, God damn, this is pretty easy. And so I saw ranges of like $300 all the way up to like $1,200 is what it was gonna cost to go to some of these clinics, you know, and get this done. And so out here, there's a business called, it's a medical center. It's called Virginia Urology. And these guys are badass. And so I went and looked at them. They only charge $300 to get the procedure done. That's it. And so that was gonna be no matter how much it costs on the back end, that was gonna be my out-of-pocket cost, $300. And I was like, wow, that's hella affordable. And so I went ahead and, you know, read the reviews. They were like, at least, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were all highly rated. They had great reviews and all that. And they had a number of clinics that were medical offices that are set up all throughout Virginia. And so I don't know if it was like 7, 8, or 9 or something that they had. So I was like, wow, this is like a very, very established location. So I looked at a few other ones and stuff like that. So I decided on them. And then I ended up reaching out to them. I think it was probably like Wednesday or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday because I suffered on Sunday, suffered on Monday. Tuesday I figured it out. I called them, made an appointment, and talked to somebody. And they were able to get me in immediately that day. So I called early. They said, well, we got a 10 o'clock appointment or whatever it was, 10:30. I went in and sat down and talk to a doctor. And so when I walk into the place, it's like going to Chipotle. You know, if you want to get a bowl made, you know, you start out with one person, ask what kind of, you know, bowl you want, or the what is it called, the burrito wrap. They got like what kind of beans you want, and they slide it down. And so they're set up the same way. So you walk in, you check in,
distance
and
0 miles.
here, let me do this real quick. All right, so I'm back. So like I said, I walked into the place. It is set up and organized really well. And you check in, you go upstairs, you sit down, you get an x-ray, then you go and do, sit down, you come back, do a urine test, sit down, and then you move through these various stations, and then you finally end up to the area where you get to see the doctor. And so they called me in for the doctor, and the doctor spent about 20 minutes with me going over my test results and what they see and what's available and what the different options are and what would he do and what the majority of patients do. And I was like, let's do the lithotripsy, man. Let's get this party started. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And so, like I said, I think it was on Wednesday, or I think it was Tuesday. And so we ended up agreeing that we're going to have me come in that Thursday and have the procedure done. So I had to kind of suffer it out and tough it out. He prescribed me some pain pills and also some Flomax to get myself ready. And I really, at that point, I was in so much pain, you know, not like it was the first time, but I was running fevers occasionally and that type of thing, that I didn't really do a whole lot. I really couldn't work that much. I just kind of just laid around and laid on the couch and just vegetated is what I really did. You know, I think I just watched a lot of World Cup and that type of stuff. And so finally, day of the procedure comes up. It was 6:30 in the morning is when the call was, but I had to be there at 6:20 in the morning to get the x-ray done. And you pull up to the place, and there was literally, I think there's probably 9 or 10 other people out in front that were waiting with me. They were all going to be going through the same procedure, which is wild. And so, you know, they invited me in. I went upstairs, took another x-ray, and went to the pre-op room, and it was really cool. And so let me just say this first, I missed this. In that time, from the time that I saw the doctor, not only did I get an x-ray, but I also ended up getting a CT scan, and ended up, you know, back there in the, let's jump back to the pre-op room. And so when I'm in the pre-op room, I'm nervous and a little scared. You can't eat anything the night before. And so the procedure is done under general anesthesia. So, you know, they ask you a lot of questions and ask a lot about your history, that type of stuff. So the nurse that was helping me, she was very nice. And we talked, and she saw I was a little bit nervous, but I was happy that I was trying to get this done, get it taken care of. And of course, the anesthesiologist comes in, the doctor on staff comes in, and the guy that actually does, the technician that runs the machine, he comes in. And then they eventually, you know, say, hey, it's time. And they roll you off to the room. You're already in a bed. They roll you into the procedure room, the operating room, however you want to call it. And there's a whole staff of people in there. They have you scoot over onto the table, put your arm out flat. And then so essentially what they do is you lay on top of a live x-ray machine, and they pinpoint where the stone is, and then the machine calibrates and adjusts, and it sends the shock waves to it. And it takes about a half an hour or so, depending. And then after that, they wheel you back to recovery, and then you're good to go. Then you get pushed out and you have your exit instructions. And so it took us about 20 minutes to get there. And then by the time the procedure's done, they were asking me to do something. And next thing you know, I'm waking up in the recovery room, and they're just like, Mr. Reese, get up, get your clothes on, and it's time for you to go. And so you have to have somebody there with you the whole time and with you for 24 hours afterwards because you're under general anesthesia. And so I got myself dressed, and the first thing that came to my mind is I gotta go to the bathroom. And I was so worried because the first time I had the procedure done, I urinated so much blood. And this time around, it just was a little bit. So I was like, oh, okay, well, shoot, did it work? And I was like, well, maybe over time, they've refined the machines and the technique where there's not as much trauma on your body. And so I got in a wheelchair. They wheeled me out through the portal, which it seemed like it was. And from that point, I saw Marilyn, and she greeted me, hey baby, all that, got me in the car. And it seemed like it took like 3 minutes to get home, and I was like, wow, it only took 3 minutes to get home. Because like I said, it's normally 20, but she said I was in and out, I was talking, all kinds of crazy stuff, saying the same thing over and over and over. She just played along. And then we ended up stopping at CVS, and I got the rest of the stuff they prescribed me. From there, we also stopped at Subway. I hadn't eaten Subway really in years, but I think we had it maybe a couple of years ago in New York. So we got Subway sandwiches, and we went home, laid on the couch, and I think I sat at the table, ate the sandwich, and then
duration 44 minutes.
I was feeling kind of loopy and all that. And then I ended up going to lay down on the couch and went to sleep. Woke up a couple hours later, and the moment I sat up, I was like, I'm back. So I was like back to feeling myself that I hadn't felt. And, it seemed like about a week or so since all this happened. And Marilyn was talking to one of her aunts on the phone. I came over and I was jibber-jabbering and telling stupid stories and stuff like that. And for the rest of the day, I just kind of laid low. I slept and ate and watched World Cup. I didn't really do anything. I think later on that evening, after the sun went down, I did get on my computer and beat around on the keyboard a little bit, then end up going to sleep. And then so that next morning is when I got up and I was good to go. And so after that, I had one more stone to get out, and they said they can only do one at a time. And so once I got home, it probably took about a day and a half because you're supposed to catch your urine and strain it. It took about a day and a half before any stones showed up. And then from there, I had over like 2 or 3 days, I had like a waterfall of stones that came down that were smashed up. Some were smaller than a grain of sand, really fine. Other ones were really large. I had a couple bigger ones, but I kept them, and then ended up having to go to my second appointment. And my second appointment is, I should say the follow-up. So I did the follow-up because we were going to be headed out of town, and I did the follow-up appointment, and end up meeting up with them again And we actually went out of the area. We had to drive 45 minutes to get to the office because we're gonna be going out of town to Denver, and it was gonna be too long. Then we're gonna come back, immediately turn around and get on the cruise ship for our anniversary. So they were like, well, we'll push you through. So I came in for the second appointment and did the urine test. Everything was completely normal. No blood in my urine, no protein. All the stuff was fine. No creatine, bleeding through, no glucose, no nothing. And so I was pretty happy about that. And then I immediately at that appointment, I scheduled my second one. And so they scheduled me for last Friday is what it was. And not this last week. It's been over a week. So they scheduled me for about a Friday and 2 days ago, and same thing. So before there's a pre-op, they call you. There's certain things you can't do. You got to come in and do a urine test, and all my urine levels and all that were perfect. So everything was normal. pH had even improved even more. How you doing? And so I did that, and then same thing happened this time. I had to get there at 6:20 in the morning. We're running a couple minutes late, so because the door automatically opens at 6:20, and so I got to miss the crowd of people that had already queued up. But once I got inside, I checked in, went upstairs, got an X-ray, and so they can confirm that I still have the stone. And then they go through all the procedures, and you end up getting called into pre-op. Everything goes down like it did before. And this time I had a different nurse. And how you doing?
Hey, looking good.
Oh, thank you. And then had a different nurse this time. She was really nice. And I forgot to say this, for the first one, she was very kind. At the end, before I rolled in, she's like, would you like me to do a little prayer before you go in? I was like, yeah, that's fine. So she did a little quick prayer. It wasn't any like 1, 2, buckle my shoe, skibbity doo, happy doo, hardy ha ha ha. None of that stuff. It was just more or less like, may the Lord keep you and watch over you and heal you kind of stuff. And so just a couple sentences, and that was really a nice touch. So the second time with the new nurse, things were, my blood pressure was kind of higher the first time because I was really scared, a little nervous. This time around, my blood pressure was normal, and so we were talking, joking. I was telling her jokes and stories, and she was cracking up. I was telling her about my experience last time, and about going through the portal. I said, literally, they told me as soon as I woke up, they told me to get up, get out of here. I said they threw the clothes at me. I put them on, and then they made me sit down in a wheelchair. They pushed me through a portal, and then Marilyn was on the other side. She scooped me up, and then it took 3 minutes to drive, 20 minutes, then I got home. So I was just telling this whole story, plus other stuff too. And she was cracking up and laughing and telling jokes also too. So it was a nice little exchange. Everybody came in, met them, the team. Everybody pretty much was different this time, excuse me, except for the technical guy that runs the machine. He's like, hey, you're back. We're gonna get your second one done here for you. And I was like, cool, I appreciate you guys, everything that you do. And so that's what we did. They went ahead and took care of me, and they wheeled me in. And so actually this time, the anesthesiologist said, we're gonna get you going ahead of time. So I think they went ahead and dropped a few milliliters in. And so it's a general anesthesia, I don't know what it is, and they put some fentanyl in there too.
51 minutes and 14 seconds.
That way you don't wake up because you're experiencing pain. And so I made it to the operating room. I got over onto the table, put my arm out, and this time they didn't ask me to do nothing. I was out. And then I wake up and I asked the lady again this time, how long was I out? She's like, about an hour. And so I went ahead and got dressed, and they wheeled me out, and then met Marilyn. She got me into the car, and then we came home. And so the same thing happened this time. I asked if I can use the bathroom as soon as I woke up. They let me do that, and I didn't pass. And actually, I may have passed, I don't know. My urine was not bloody at all, just slightly pink. And I was like, okay, they've definitely gotten this procedure down. And so I just, I didn't strain my urine at all. But as soon as I got home, I went to the bathroom and I started passing stones like right away. Man, I was like, wow. And the stone passage went on. Every time I went to the bathroom, I was passing stones. And I was filling up the strainer, and I was like, wow, look at all these stones. And so Marilyn's like, man, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden, and so one of the things that happened, you're like, is this painful when you pass these stones? It can be. And so I equate it, if you've ever had an STD before, something like gonorrhea or chlamydia or something like that, you're cool until you go to the bathroom, and then you get like this burning sensation. That's about what it feels like. You know, I'm not saying I've ever had that before or I have reference to it, but I'm just letting you guys know about what it feels like. And so some of the stones are jagged, and they try to break them up as much as possible. But then and so what would end up happening was I'd end up having like these sharp pains in the tip. And I'd be like, oh man. And then I'd go to the bathroom, and then a larger stone would come out, and I was like, okay, that's what it was. So I started noticing and sensing a pattern of what was happening. And so, and I started noticing that a lot of these stones were quite a bit larger early on than they were the other time. And there was a point where my stone production stopped. Maybe like the next day, about a day and a half from the procedure, it stopped. But I was like, I didn't really, as large as my stone was, I haven't really pushed that much out. And then I started to have like this continuous pain, and it got to the point where, you know, it would be there, then it would go away, and I'd go to the bathroom, and then it would come back, and then it would go away after I was done. But I can feel like something was sitting there, and I was like, you know what, I think I have a larger stone than I'm pushing out right now, and if I don't get this out, I think the other ones that are behind it are stuck. And so I would sometimes get like a little itty bitty piece of something that would come through, you know, but I think this went on for about 2 days or so. And then finally we went to and I had to go to the bathroom like every, you know, 20, 30 minutes or something like that. So I just stayed home and stayed close and kept doing what I needed to do. But then it got to the point where here we were trying to get this one last big stone out, and we ended up going to the movies. It was on a Monday, and so I hadn't passed any stones in about 2 days. And I was at the movie theater, and I was like, man, how am I gonna make it through this movie and not have to go to the bathroom? And so, but I did, because we went to go watch Spider-Man, and it's like 2.5 hours long or whatever it was. And so I was like, cool, let's just make this happen. So I went to the bath, and I ended up bringing a cup with me, like a water bottle. And I said, if I have to go, I'm gonna keep it so that way I can strain it later. And sure enough, about 2 hours into the movie, hour and a half or so, I got to the point where I had to try to make it happen. And so I ended up getting up and grabbed my water bottle, went to the bathroom, and did what I had to do, and I felt relief. And then I looked down inside the bottle, and there was like, it looked like it was a boulder. I was like, that's what it was. And so, and I came back and I told Marilyn, I said, I passed the boulder. And so, and after that, over the next couple days or so, same thing happened. The stone production returned, and then I was pushing out some of the larger stones, and then there was a point where it kind of stopped for a few hours. Then I pushed out another few larger stones, Then after about, really within about a day and a half of passing that one really large stone, I knew at that point that I was done, you know. And so I continued straining for like another couple days or so, and then nothing happened. And I was like, okay, I'm done, completely done. And so here we are today. You know, I have my follow-up appointment on Monday, tomorrow, and I'll go do an x-ray, they'll check, and then everything will be cool. And then we'll try to keep it moving from there. And so this, like I said, this has been a really crazy journey for me to go through. And it's been 20 years since I've been dealing with the stones. And like I said, I take full responsibility for this happening to me. And so, and of course, in the sense of all these videos that I do, there's always like a lesson that's learned. And so I talk about various subjects and different things that happen. But most importantly, I'm always like, you know, now that we're here, what can we do to deal with it or to prevent it or whatever it might be? And so that's where I am right now with this. And so I've made some significant changes in my life right now. And so in like like I said, it really all comes down to water production, or water, me drinking enough water. I don't drink enough water. And so when I asked myself, why don't I drink enough water? One of the things I love in my water is ice. And so, and when you drink water with a lot of ice, it's cold and you can't drink that much of it at all. So I have stopped putting ice in my water. I'll drink cold water from the refrigerator, but I will not drink ice water anymore. I just don't do it because it inhibits the amount of water that I can drink. And if you drink a Slurpee or something like that, you get a brain freeze. If you drink a lot of cold water, you can get a brain freeze also too. So it really limits how much you can actually take in. So now what I've done is I've eliminated that. And so now I talked to my sister about water consumption and all that, and she drinks a lot of alkaline water and all that. And there's a formula that she uses. So I eventually kind of looked into that and adapted what she said. And I've come up with is that I need to drink roughly about 1 gallon of water a day. That's what it comes down to. You know, at a minimum, 80 ounces of water, ideally at least 120 ounces of water. And if I'm really exerting myself and I'm burning a lot of, sweating a lot, I need to increase my intake to more. So now I have a 40-ounce water bottle. And actually I've been using that, and I just bought a new one from, what's that water company called? Or that water bottle company called? I forget what it's called. But I bought a really nice water bottle that's 40 ounces right now. And I try to drink at a minimum of 3 a day. And so 3 is the goal, and a gray area is 2, which is 80 ounces, and a minimum, which is red line, is 40 ounces. And I don't even want to try to do that. You know, so I try to drink at least 120 ounces of water a day, and which is pretty close to 1 gallon. A gallon is like 128, and there may be some other miscellaneous thing I may drink that will make up like the other 8 ounces, no big deal. And so I've done that, and then and after testing my stones, my stones are all they were calcium oxalate stones, and so meaning that. Here's the thing, oxalates, there's different types of kidney stones depending on what's going on with your body. Mine are calcium oxalates, so which means that I eat a lot of high oxalate foods, and they get to my kidneys, and without having enough water in there, they combine with calcium, and that creates stones. It's just that simple. And so, and I tell you, there's so many high oxalate foods that I love to eat. Nuts are extremely high in oxalates. I can eat a bag of of cashews and pistachios and peanuts. I can survive all day on peanut butter. You guys know I love to make peanut butter, all that type of stuff. Peanuts and nuts and that type of stuff, they're all extremely high in oxalates. So I had to cut all that stuff out. Grits are high in oxalates. Potatoes are high in oxalates. You know, regular potatoes, sweet potatoes are high in oxalates. So there's a number of foods that I've had to cut out. And you can always Google and see, you know, what it is, you know, but there's a ton of foods that are very high in oxalates. And raisins are high in oxalates. A lot of dried fruits are also very high in oxalates. You know, so it's been one of those things where I did it to myself, you know, and so by not drinking enough water and then eating food that's high in oxalates, that's caused the stones to build up over time. And so by me drinking lemon water and then drinking apple cider vinegar, you know, that's allowed me to get to the point where I am right now, where I was able to go like 12 years before I had an episode. And I haven't been consistent with even doing that at all, you know. And so here we are. I've had to make adjustments, and my wife is completely aware of them, that these foods that are high in oxalates. And so what I've had to do now is that if I end up eating anything that's higher in oxalates, I have to chase it with food that's rich in calcium. And so what happens is, you know, foods like cheese or yogurt, like for example, if my wife made some sweet potatoes, right? I would eat the sweet potatoes. I wouldn't eat very many of them at all, but I would also eat some cheese with my dinner. And so the calcium that's inside the cheese will combine with the oxalates. And so there's the places you don't want them to combine is inside your kidneys. But if they combine with inside of your stomach, you know, one has a positive charge, one has a negative charge, they clump together. They're too big to pass through your system and into your body, and so they'll end up clumping together, and they pass right out through your, when you go number 2. And so that's what you want to do. So if you end up eating, you know, a bunch of French fries, for example, if you have cheesy fries, the two offset each other. So stuff with like magnesium, and the most important thing is like, citrates, and limit my probability of having an outbreak in the future. But primarily what I'm doing right now is I've significantly increased the amount of water that I consume, you know, and like I said, and the other thing too is like when I go to, like at nighttime, when you go to bed at night, you know, you wake up to go to the bathroom, I will bring water to my bedside. I bring my water bottle. And so every time I wake up, I'll drink a significant amount of water. So I'll look at what my urine looks like, the color, and then I'll drink a bunch of water, and then I'll turn around and go to bed. And then if I wake up again, I'll drink more water. So by the time I really get going in the morning, so from midnight all the way through to the time I really get up in the morning and get to my desk, I usually have already tried to consume at least 40 ounces of water. And so you figure at a minimum every 8 hours or so, I try to consume about 40 ounces of water. Now, and I've done it before, I've drank like a whole bunch of water like all at one time, and then you'll end up going to the bathroom like really quick, and because your body doesn't have a chance to really try to absorb the water, and it flushes it out through your kidneys and all that, you know. And so what I'll end up doing in that case is I've learned that I need to just sip throughout the day, and by having the water that's not icy, I'm able to take big chugs and take it down. So that works out great. And like I said, I use the lemons, I use the apple cider vinegar. I take apple cider vinegar diluted in water before I go to bed. It helps with my pH. And then when I wake up in the morning and I brush my teeth, I do it also then too. You know, so like I said, none of this is advice at all. I'm just kind of telling you guys what I do. And then really the last thing here besides that is, and I think one of the problems often is sometimes I'm like, well, how many have I had? Have I had 2 today or 3 today? And so I try to look around and try to find a way of tracking, you know, my water. There's water bottles that will track your water consumption through an app. You got to charge the water bottle up. there's a device that you can attach to it. But what I ended up doing was I ended up getting these silicone rubber bands essentially, and I bought like I don't know, it's like a 20 pack of them. And I've got different colors on it. So I've got 4 rubber bands. I've got a red one, I've got a gray one, I've got a green one. Oh, actually, I got a red one, gray one. I got another color that it might be black, and then I've got the final color, which is green. So they're all stacked on top of each other. So in the morning, when I finish my first bottle of water, and I go back to fill it up, I will take the red band and move it up and make a gap between the other bands. And so, like I said, that I'm in the red zone. You know, I'm redlining. That's like pushing your system to the limits. You know, and so that's why I have the red color. And so the next one color is the gray one. So when I drink the next bottle of water, I get to the gray one. You know, and so when you're in the gray, you're in the gray zone, you know, things are iffy, you know, so that's like the bare minimum. So the third one is going to be the black. And so when it comes to like retail, there's 2 colors, there's red and there's black. You're either in the red or you're in the black. So if you're in the red, you're at a deficit and you're losing money. If you're in the black, you're actually making money. That's why they call it Black Friday. So that's why I have that color. Then the last one is the green color, you know, and so with the green color, you know, of course you're green light, all that whole thing. And so like today with me riding, I want to try to get to the green, I need to get to the green zone. And so I've already had 1 bottle of water today. The one I'm drinking right now, I bring my same water bottle with me, and I've already drank most of that. So by the time I get home, I will have consumed 2 bottles of water. I just have 2 more bottles of water to drink throughout the day. And then so I made sure that my water has lemon in it, and I also purchased powdered lemon. And so when we traveled, I was working on, I had the second kidney stone in me when we went to we went on the Virgin cruise for our anniversary. I was worried that I would crash my system and potentially expel a stone. So I ended up buying, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to have access to lemon easily. So I ended up buying lemon powder. And so when you put the lemon powder in the water, it makes the citric, it alivens the citric acid and all that. And so it's an easy way to get it in there. Plus I also had, at the same time, I had electrolytes that I put in my water also too. So when we were out that day in Cozumel, we did all kinds of stuff. We ended up going, it was hot. We ended up going to a cave, and you know, we ended up ATVing, and we went out and we swam in the ocean, you know, so it was really taxing. And then when we went to Bimini Beach, man, it was even hotter out there. And it was so hot that day. I was just sweating so much, but I drank a whole bunch of water the day before on both days, and I brought water with me, and I drank water while I was there. And then I consumed even more. And when I got back to the ship, all I drank was water. So one of the things I've done now is I've really cut down on drinking really anything else but water, because one, if I end up drinking like a whole bunch of lemonade or something like at the movie theater, I still have my water bands I have to get through. So I would rather force myself to drink the water if I need to and get credit for that than to drink other stuff. And so I've had a few things here and there. Like last night we went to a restaurant and I hadn't really drinking that much during the day. And the guy asked me what I wanted. Marilyn ended up ordering something. And I said, you know, I have my water bottle here. I'm just gonna just drink off of this. And that's what I did. I just drank my water with my meal. You know, so I've made those kind of changes there. And so I think that in the end, with me trying to do this and consuming more water and watching the oxalates that I do eat, and if I do end up eating some oxalate-rich food, I make sure I chase that with some cheese or some calcium or some yogurt or something like that. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay, you know. And so I don't want to have to go through this anymore, you know. And you know, and there's no reason to. And in the end, you know, this has cost me about $1,000, you know, which is a lot cheaper than it was just to go to the emergency room. And I ended up having to pay $300 for the first procedure, I paid $300 for the second lithotripsy procedure. I had to pay $300 for the CT scan. Was it a CT scan or MRI? It was one of those. And I had to pay $300 for that. And then I've had like $100 worth of miscellaneous stuff I've had to pay for. Medication, $20 for medication, that type of stuff. And I have one bill at home right now. When they analyze my kidney stones, they want like 56 bucks for it. But I don't know if they end up charging my insurance or not. So I need to call them and say, hey, I want to make sure you guys, charge my insurance on this, and then we should be good to go. And so, like I said, I am 100% responsible for what happened to me, and I'm making significant changes to be able to make it work. And the one last thing that happened that I was glad that I figured out was I had one other test. We went to the jazz festival out here, and it was so hot that day. It was in the hundreds. And I forget to say this. This is the kidney stone capital. We're in the kidney stone belt out here. The most kidney stones that take place in the United States take place from Richmond all the way down to Florida, all the way over to about Louisiana or so. And what happens is it's the climate, it's the humidity that we have, the way because we sweat a lot because we don't evaporate the sweat off of us because of the high humidity. And even when I started today, it was like 90% humidity out here, and so you have to drink more water. You got to drink electrolytes in order to keep yourself in good shape. So we went to the festival for 2 days, and I drank so much water while I was there and the nights before. And if I don't drink enough, if I sweat a lot and I don't have electrolytes, I will cramp up at night. And so I had no issues with cramps. So I'm glad I was able to survive that harsh test before I got my second one out. I didn't end up expelling the second stone and having it kind of work its way down and all that. So in the end, a brother is happy that I'm okay. Life is good. We're making it happen out here. And like I said, in the end, what does the future hold for me right now? So I'm back on my bike. I'm proud of that. And we're going to make it happen. And like I said, it was 100% my fault. I take full accountability. Like I said, this is not in any kind of way, any kind of medical advice for anybody. Consult your physician. And I just want to let you guys know what my journey was here dealing with kidney stones and what I'm doing to prevent it from happening going forward in the future. So I appreciate you guys tuning in on this video. I don't think I have anything else that I got to think. That's it. So I think we're good, guys. So peace, and we'll talk soon. And I appreciate you guys as always. Peace. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay. My brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.